What's up, everybody? This is Dave.
And what's up, Klamath Falls? This is Mike, and welcome to the show. Our tone's a little more somber today. We've got a serious topic to go over, and luckily we have um, Becky and Vicky from NAMI here to talk about a sensitive subject, and that is suicide and PTSD and the things that go along with that. And not enough people want to talk about the subject, but it's something that's pretty important. And hopefully, through this conversation, we'll gain uh, some thoughts and hopefully help some folks through reaching out to them. So, that being said, I'm kind of stumbling over myself. I'm going to turn it over to Becky here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us. This is quite a treat for us. Um, so NAMI stands for National Alliance on Mental Illness, and Vicky's been involved for about 18 years. I've been involved for about 16 years. So NAMI does all kinds of things, and everything that we do is free. Across the nation, everything NAMI does is free. We teach classes, we run support groups, man a warm line, put out a newsletter, and get and accept calls from all over the United States where people are struggling and they came across our number or might even be written on a wall over in Medford. I'm not really sure. But anyway, we we talk to people and help them navigate through mental illness because usually when they call us, they are at the end. They're at the end of their rope. They're at the end of the line. They don't know what to do, but their world is falling apart. So a lot of times we meet with people one on one, but we do run support groups 3 times a month. First Tuesday of the month is for people who might have someone in their family or close friend or the guy next door that has some issues and they want to know how to be helpful, which is wonderful. People reaching out for information is great. Uh, we also run 2 support groups a month for people who have some kind of mental health issue and they want to talk or they want to yell or they want to cry. So we get together and visit, talk about how our week's going and what might make it better, what we can do to help people get resources. We have a lot of resources. Klamath County has a lot of resources. And if people know where to go or what to ask, then it can be very beneficial for them. A lot of times, you see a lot of homeless people that are also struggling with mental health issues because they can't live at home. They can't live at home because they might hear things that other people don't hear, or they might see things that other people don't see. People don't understand that. But mental illness is an illness like anything else. It can be helped, but you have to remember you didn't do it and you can't fix it. So you have to figure out what are things that would help me do better. And that's what we do. We help people figure that out. So we also teach a class called Peer to Peer, where people who are struggling with a mental illness can come in and figure out what is not working well in their world. Like what and Walmart's a great store, but the lighting in Walmart is very hard on some brains.
Hmm.
And people don't understand that. They don't know that. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, it's just a light,
The
but
fluorescence that they use. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
not everybody's affected, but the people that are affected, like I know a person that when she goes into Walmart, she just sends her kids in different directions with baskets and lists, and they go do that, and she gets her nails done because she can't deal with the people or the lights, and so that's one of the things. But another thing that we have discovered is that if you're struggling with a mental health issue, a bar is probably the last place you should go. Alcohol
Right.
is not going to help you. Alcohol is not going to increase your brain power or anything else. So we try to help people understand what is going to be beneficial for you and what is not, what you should stay away from.
Well, and I think you kind of touched on it early on here is that I guess it's a stigma that people, if you have a flu or another ailment, you'll go to a doctor. It's not a big deal. But if it's your head that's not well, then people don't want to accept that, and they view that differently. And the fact of the matter is, there's doctors for every ailment, including
Yeah.
mental illness. So
Yes.
we
And
need to get past that stigma.
And it's very important that you do get, first of all, diagnosed, and that might take 10 years. They say that from your first onset of whatever to getting a real diagnosis that is absolutely perfect for you and getting on medication and letting the medication help you, we're talking 10 years. And oh my gosh, who wants to spend 10 years trying to figure that out? And so it's important, first of all, that you have family or friends who will stand beside you. Okay, this is an illness. You didn't do it, you can't fix it, but you can figure out how to make your life better. And so that's what we try to help with. One of the programs that we did was ending the silence a few years ago to a couple of the schools.
That's teen based, correct?
Right. It's actually for middle school and high schoolers. That's who they, target for that to help them understand that if you are feeling this way or if things like this are happening, for you it might seem like the normal. It's always been that way. I've always been tired, or I've always not really cared about anything, or whatever the situation might be. That you might think that's your normal, but it might not be normal, and there might be something that you can do to help yourself, or there might be a medication. Most people don't want to be on medication. Would you want to be on a medication that's going to put 50 pounds on you? Nobody wants that. So they head for street drugs or alcohol or pot or whatever.
Go ahead.
Do you find it more in kids is brought on by something happened, trigger, or
Well,
picked
Yes.
on in school, or just
yeah,
Stressors. Yes.
stressors,
Environmental
but
stressors.
sometimes you are, it's already in there. It just hasn't, popped out. We had a lady in class one time. Her world was falling apart. Her husband was 80 years old and had just had his first episode of bipolar. And I was like, he's 80 years old and you didn't think anything was wrong? And she said, well, he just got a little crabby once in a while. We just, give him a wide berth and walk away and not, But at that time, their world was definitely falling apart. So it can hit you at any age. It can be from anything, that happens, like a major accident or something really, bad. But for it, this is a neurobiological brain disorder, so it's already there. Just hasn't. It just
Hasn't
hasn't.
reared its head yet. And I would think, yeah, we were talking about this the other day, that social media and the bullying that can occur with that can be such a trigger. It's such a horrible thing for kids, that a level of stress that people our age never had to deal with.
Right. I don't remember ever, and I'm pretty old. I don't remember ever being bullied, but I had three brothers. Nobody was going to bully me,
that helps a
But
little bit.
Yeah.
but I do know a lot of kids that do get bullied, and I am a little bit ferocious on that because I have no problem just, oh, the principal and I are on. We know each other. And so, yeah, if something happens, yeah, I'm right on the phone going, did you know? And because I have great grandchildren and they're all pretty little, and yeah, I don't want them bullied. I don't want them pushed down and it's happened a few times at school and the school tries to get on it. But there's a lot of kids. They can't watch everything everybody does. Parents need to, be very mindful when their children are at the park or at school, what they're saying and what they're doing. Because any child, whether they're blind or deaf or crippled or, they still have a right to go to school and feel safe.
Right. When I believe in our phone conversation, you had mentioned that teens have a tendency to plan suicides.
I asked that question to a therapist. I said, kids that have what do you call
Yes, children, young adults do plan. They have the social media now where they can look it up on ways to commit suicide. And a lot of them
Wow.
went to a suicide prevention course through the VA system. It was very small here locally. And Robert was the one that put it on at the VA clinic. And he said most people that commit suicide really don't want to commit suicide. They, even though they plan it, they have it on the computers. They look and see where and how to do it. It's just something triggers, or they have too much social environments. Like maybe your boyfriend broke up with you, you lost your job, maybe you've lost a couple animals, and it's just an accumulation of all these things. And they don't know, they don't have the coping skills, and they don't have the support systems of their family members, or they move away from home and they don't contact their families, and then it gets out of control, and then they commit suicide.
What a shame.
They don't have anyone that will, like sometimes they reach out for help, but the person that they're reaching out won't help them or drive them to the emergency room, and it's just a spur of the moment thing that triggers it that they commit suicide, but basically they don't want to.
And I had a dad call me one time, and his son had just tried to commit suicide, and he was struggling with autism. And so I went to a therapist and asked him, people with autism, do they ordinarily try to kill themselves? And he goes, oh, no, no, that never happens. Well, wait a minute, let me look it up. And so he got on the computer and asked that question, and he got 4 pages of hits from people that said yes, 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 and all kinds of different experiences. And so I don't think that anybody is immune to being sad or feeling like they've just lost everything or everybody, or it can happen over just about anything, but usually they're thinking about it, and parents really need to know what's on their kids' computers. And I know it's a whole privacy thing, and you know my computer, because I really don't know much about it, don't really know how to work it, and my grandsons have to, but they, they're on it a lot. I don't have anything to hide. There's nothing, really on there, but I do know, because both of them have been suicidal, that I have to be very careful what they're thinking, what they're watching, what they're listening to, who is coming around. All those things are very important. And you have to talk to your kids. You have to, and people think that if you talk about it, it's going to, encourage them to do it. And that's not the truth. If you need to talk about it, you need to ask them how they're feeling. And do you think, are you thinking these thoughts, or have you ever thought about taking your own life? Or when you feel like this, is that what you're thinking? Just talk to them and let them talk to you, and then listen to what they're saying, so that if there is an issue, you can pick up on it. A lot of training on it.
And in regards to the privacy thing, I get that, but I would much rather have a mad 15-year-old or 17-year-old because I was snooping through their computer than to be planning a memorial service for the kid.
Right,
So,
right.
and I think, and it's something that I think I picked up from being a kid. When you're disciplined, it doesn't mean you understand your parents don't hate you. That to me, it's that's a show that they care about you, and whether you like it or not, and you might think it's the worst thing in the world that they're browsing on your computer. However, you know that they care because they're bothering to give you that attention.
Are you either one of you familiar with the Netflix? It was 13 Reasons Why.
That
Netflix.
was not, I'm sorry.
What is it?
13 Reasons Why. Our state director, as soon as that came out, he shot out emails saying, don't encourage people to watch that. And the reason being, it kind of put out like a mixed message, and it was more of an encouragement to be thinking along those lines. And I never did watch it because I didn't want it in my head if there was stuff in there that I might accidentally say or something. But I know there are a lot of people that have watched it, but he felt like it was not appropriate for if we are trying to diminish suicide and diminish those thoughts in kids, then yeah, that's not really something.
I didn't watch neither. Same reason as yourself, but I think, as Vicky said, kids are looking for instructions, and I think that's why it was kind of controversial, is because that did not. It was exploring it almost.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think that was the right way to handle that. If that's what.
But there are some things we've had. We've seen a lot of things on the internet but they're very, very expensive. So, if you're going to bring something here, just the movie itself is like $700-800 or $1,500 and I'm like, okay, we don't have that kind of money. So we have to go with things that, first of all, that we know are going to work, like ending the silence. But we did go into Klamath Union. This was several years ago. We had gotten our hands on a CD and the paperwork that went with it of a young man who was planning his own suicide. Came from a good family. His parents were still married to each other. Life was good. They had, they weren't, you know, filthy, stinking rich, but they were wealthy. And, so he didn't really want for anything, but something was wrong. Something was off. And he started collecting pills. And his parents went out to dinner one night, and so he took all those pills, and they just happened to come back early and found him and got him to a hospital. And the doctor, when, after they examined him and got his stomach pumped and everything, came in and told him, well, you're struggling with depression. That's what. And then he was angry because he said they teach us about, drinking and driving and safe sex and this and that, but nobody has ever said anything about depression. How come we can't know about depression? And so then he was really on the bandwagon to go to schools and tell them, his story. This is what happened to me because I didn't know that I was struggling with depression. And so that's why I see it's really important. And I always encourage people, when they come to us and say, I think I might have bipolar, or I think I might have this or that, I always say, go to the doctor and get a physical. If you have something wrong with your thyroid, it's going to mimic mental illness. And so you want to get that you want to get that taken care of. You want to know if that's the problem. And so I tend to tell people do that first and then see if there's a diagnosis.
I had no idea there was a tie-in there
Yep.
Right.
with the thyroid.
Most people don't. They
Yeah.
because you're not born with this information, and why would you look it up? Yeah.
Right.
A lot of it is chemical imbalances of the brain with dopamine and serotonin, where it goes to the frontal cortex of the brain. And so when you have mental depression and you have a lot of environmental issues like your family or a divorce or whatever, it accumulates and you get more and more depressed and you don't know what to do. And so it's like any disease that you have to get it checked out.
Okay.
And there's a stigma tied with mental illness and suicide. And sometimes you don't get the help you need, you wait too long, and it gets way out of control, and then bad things happen.
And recently, and this was so bizarre to me, that they discovered that if you have, I think it's ADHD, there is some no carpal tunnel syndrome. If you have carpal tunnel syndrome, that's tied to the heart. That's tied to having heart issues. And because I had it in both hands, and I had it operated on years ago, and I do have some heart issues, and I'm like, wow, who knew? I mean, so there's all kinds of information out there, but you have to research it. Now, when something comes up in my home, My grandkids are on it. Oh, wait a minute, Grandma. Let me see. Let me see if that's right. Hold on. And they're Googling, and stuff. But there is a lot of information out there that can help people, especially if you're struggling and you're not really sure why.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing that we need to break through is that stigma. And that's why I was excited when you guys reached out to have you on here. The more it's talked about out in the open, the more that stigma is going to disappear. And boy, I think it was, you had given me the analogy that, and we talked about it a little earlier, that it's just like being sick. It's just a different form, it's not a flu, it's not, a sprained ankle. It's just another form of being sick, and your brain can get sick too. So I'd like to take a minute just to point out that you guys do this all for free,
Right.
that there is no cost associated with it. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Across the nation, all the NAMI affiliates, their classes that they teach, support groups that they run, all that is free to the public. It's not free to us, so we have to raise money, all year so that we can give away information and go set up at all these places and help people, figure out, navigate through mental illness. And so we haven't had a fundraiser in 3 years because of the pandemic. As soon as that hit, state office called and said, shut it down. And I said, wait, we're only 3 weeks in. Nope, shut it down. No more meetings. And I'm like, okay. So we continued to meet with the support groups because I couldn't just tell those people don't come back.
Right.
They really needed to be there, and so we continued the support group, but we haven't done a class. But we are planning on doing a class this fall, and the family to family class is helping you understand, if you have a relative that has a mental illness, what they might be going through. And part of that class is having the class members, maybe 5 or 6 of them at a table, and then 5 or 6 of the class members not at the table. They're outside finding out what they're going to do. So they're going to come in, stand behind these people, and each one of them has a different script, and they're just going to read it over and over and over, while these people are taking directions from me on how to build this thing that has lines and has to be here and there. And that was an eye-opener for me because it was hard for me to even teach that while all that noise was going on. And so when you understand that this is what people are hearing when they're trying to take directions, they've got voices in their head. Just because you can't hear them doesn't mean they're not there. That's what they hear. They can't figure it out, and it's not. And I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, before pandemic, that a young man, some people came home after being out for a while, and there was a young man hiding in their attic. They didn't know him. He didn't know them. Yeah. And his father is a doctor in San Diego, or was at that time. And he called us and wanted to help him. But because of privacy thing, we couldn't. I said, I'm sorry, he doesn't
HIPAA.
want your help, so I can't tell you anything. He's alive, and but we get calls from people all over the United States wanting to know, do you know this person? Are they alive? Can I help them? All kinds of things. Because I work with the homeless. I volunteer at the warming center, and so I see a lot of this, and so I know a lot of those people. They're my friends. Um, but but anyway, we do what we can to help, and yes, it is all free.
And so being free, it's good to point out you're a 501c3 charity, so deduction or donations are tax deductible.
Yes, they are. And when people do donate to us, we have a receipt with that number on it so that they can get that tax credit.
Is there a way to contact you to make a donation?
There is. We have a post office box here, or they can just call the state office and do it through the state office. We have had people here do that, and they give a monthly donation to NAMI, and they just go through that. That's above my pay grade. So I don't. I'm like, wait, how would you do that? And he said, never mind, I'll call the state office. Yes, that is a good idea.
Well,
I'd like to
okay.
say one thing, on stigma, in the class that I took, because my son is bipolar, it took me 2 times to go through it to kind of understand, because I was so upset about it, because of stigma and what people would think and do, and I just was so overwhelmed with it. But in the course that we teach, we have everybody count out like 1, 2, 3, and then we'll say, everyone that's a 3, hold your hands up. Well, 1 in every 3 people have some sort of a mental illness, whether it be, and PTSD is an anxiety disorder. But a lot of veterans don't want to be associated with stigma, mental illness, but it is an anxiety disorder. But you'll have something, 1 in every 3 people. So we can count 1, 2, 3, 4. So one of us has some sort of anxiety or mental disorder that genetic, a lot of it's genetic, but it can also start out as a breakdown, and then your brain, when you have a breakdown, it takes 2 years before your brain gets totally back to where it was before
Wow.
your breakdown. So these are brain disorders, and they need to heal. Or you can be in a car accident and destroy the frontal cortex of your brain, and that affects the emotions. And it does take, I have a friend, it took her 5 years to get back to where she was, that they didn't think she would, talk or speak or control her emotions. So it's what we try to teach and prevent
Do
a
you
lot of
find
things.
concussions play a part in that?
Yes, concussions do play a part in suicide also,
Okay.
because when you damage the brain, you get broken blood vessels. The brain cells die off, and if you don't go to the doctor and seek help and take medications, like these boxers, they damage their brains, and what is it, Muhammad Ali?
Yeah.
He had tremors. All these kind of things were associated with head trauma, and so it definitely does have a part playing with suicide, and you
Okay.
have to catch it in time
I
and
think,
and get the treatment you need.
sorry, I think one of my things why this intrigued me so much are you guys, so my son took karate here a while ago. Were you guys, do you know of Master Church? They had the karate studio here in town.
Oh, okay.
He,
Oh, yeah.
he
He
committed
committed
suicide
suicide.
because he
Right.
couldn't,
It does. It does play a part.
it took a toll, and
It
that's what took the toll on him.
right.
And then another thing is postpartum depression. People look at that and, okay, a woman has a baby, and yeah, she might be depressed for a couple of weeks. Well, postpartum depression can last years. It
Really?
can last years.
It's
Yeah.
hormones in the body.
Yeah, and especially if it's not taken care of, so you get help. It's not bad parenting, and this is why a lot of people don't come forward when they have a child that is maybe a little rambunctious. People tend to think that you can spank ADHD out of a child. You can't. You can't. If they have ADHD, they have ADHD. You have to figure out a way to either put that into something that will be helpful for them, or get them some medication or whatever. So I know people who have kids that are very, very gifted, but they are wild. And well, you have to figure out a way to cap that. And because all that talent and being gifted and being able to do all those things is wonderful. And okay, so you might be a little wild. Well, we'll tame that down a little bit, but yeah, go and do whatever. Do they want to be on medication? They don't want to be on medication. They like that euphoria. They like thinking they can fly. That's it's yeah.
And that kind of leads me to another question. So, is medication the majority of the time the answer, or is therapy?
Not necessarily. It some medication, and I have a child that was on medication, but some medication is going to be helpful, and it depends on the person. You can have 20 young people with ADHD and not have any two alike. I mean, it's that weird. It's that far out there. And so you have to, like I said, you have to figure out what will be helpful. Now, one of the things that is very helpful is your surroundings, your environment. If you live in a place where the music is blaring all the time and there's total chaos and all those kind of things, it's not going to help you. Whereas if you live on a farm where you're taking care of animals and putting all that stuff into other beings, that is very helpful. And it's quiet and it's calm and it's beautiful. And that's way different than, so living in the city and, living in chaos, not that all cities are chaos, but that makes a big difference. But there are things that people can do to help kids who struggle with, and I know because this is the world I live in. Almost everybody I know has, some kind of issue where they need help,
But don't you agree it's therapy with, it depends on what you're diagnosed as, and then the therapists will, don't they do talk sessions, therapies, they have different ways of handling a lot of things with children. But therapy does help.
Yeah, talk therapy is really really important, and not being alone. A lot of times when people struggle with mental illness, they isolate, and that is the worst thing that they can do. Even if you don't like people, I have a grandson that tells me every day, "But Grandma, I don't like people. I don't want to be around people." Okay, and that's fine, but see, you have us, so you're around people, and we do things and stuff. But if you're isolating and you're closing the blinds and you don't let anybody in, it's not going to go well for you.
And so if you see a friend or a family member that's starting to do that, it's probably best to reach out to them.
Reach out to them,
Definitely.
maybe get them some help, suggest that, well, I could go with you. And I've done that before. People have called and said, but I don't like those people. Okay, well, I can go with you and keep you safe and won't let anybody hurt you. And so we just do whatever it takes to get people help. And KBBH has an open door policy where I think you can go in there 5 days a week and say, I need to talk to somebody, and they will get you somebody. Yeah.
Okay. And then you guys have a walk coming up.
Yes. So we were doing a walk every year for, I think it was 17 years, and they're kind of fun. They're kind of crazy and wild. But this year we will be walking from the courthouse to the Commons Park. Then we have a barbecue where we feed everybody. But we have been collecting prizes from the community, things that we can give the walkers as a prize. So we give a prize for the largest team, the team that brings in the most amount of money, the oldest walker, the youngest participant, the best poster thing, because everybody makes their own posters. And so we give prizes for those. And then the prizes that are left over, we just start calling out ticket numbers and it's all free. We got the stuff free, so we're giving it out free. We will also have a table of information set up there where if you're looking for information on something in particular, you can find it. And we have lots of information in Spanish, and that's just something they send us, and so we get it out there. And we will also have a board up with all of our community donors on it, everybody that gave us prizes or money or whatever that we know of, and they will all be on that board, so that when the walkers come back, these are the people you need to thank that made this
Sponsors.
possible, because we couldn't have done this without the community partners.
And so that'll be this coming Saturday, the 18th.
The 18th.
Okay. And what time would folks want to show up down there?
Well, we start registration at 10:30. Well, quarter after 10, 10:30, depending on how many people show up, and get everybody registered. Everybody that walks has to fill out a form. Now, if they're very small children, their parents have to fill out a form, so we can keep track of everybody that came, and so then we start walking at 11 and go to the Commons Park. Before we start walking, a member of the Klamath tribes is going to it's kind of a blessing on the land because this land used to all belong to Klamath tribes, and so we felt like it was a good thing to thank the land. And I'm not sure what all they have planned, but we will also have some dancers there and some drummers, and so it should be a lot of fun.
Good, good.
Is this your only fundraiser for the year, or do you have several?
Well, no, we're planning some other things, just to make sure that we have enough money to make it through the year. So we are planning some other things in the first full week of October is Mental Illness Awareness Week. And we try to do some things then. They used to do an ice cream social. We might do that again this year. Just we haven't put that together yet. We've put all of our energy into the walk to make sure it turns out okay, because there's a lot to do, and we got to collect food. A lot of our sponsors are giving us food for the thing. I did go out and find people who could barbecue. I don't barbecue either. I don't do the computer, and I don't barbecue. And so we have a lot of that stuff going on. But we were very fortunate that the community just people kept calling saying, "Come and pick up this certificate," and we got some stuff we want to give you, and that's been fun and great, but extremely exhausting. I'm not as young as I was 10 years ago.
That's something I've got to say that I'm part of a 501c3 also, and important matters. This community really does come together and stands for good causes. They really do. We're fortunate to be here.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I think that there's also a lot of resources here that other people may not have, but for our community being as few people, it's not like Medford or Portland or any of those places, but we have a lot of things that people can tag into to get help and talk to people and see what needs to be done in order for them to be the best that they can be.
Well, I've said it before. We're kind of an island. We're 70 miles from anywhere, so we kind of need to lean on each other
Right,
here,
right.
and so we're
And one of
fortunate
the
to have
things
that.
that we also do is go to Lake County. They before the pandemic, they because they kind of shut down too during the pandemic. But we did a hospital wellness fair there, and we set up for a suicide prevention fair that was there. And then on the 22nd, the seniors are going to have a elder awareness fair, and we will be set up for that. We'll be giving away a big basket of stuff, and that people
Great.
can just get a free ticket on, and then whoever wins it, we always give away a basket. Vicky makes the baskets, designs this great big beautiful thing, and then we give it away.
No, that's great. That's great. Was there anything else that you?
You had a question a little bit ago.
The only one that came up, and it was from the documentation, I guess. The thing that I pulled, Oregon was a number two, let me put that. Suicide is the number two cause of death for teens in Oregon.
Right.
And you said that NAMI was shut down due to COVID and stuff like that. Was that just an Oregon thing, or was that just was that a
Well,
national?
I
It was
think
more
that was
national.
national.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
As soon as national hit our state office with shut everything down, then yeah, they called me and
okay.
I I'm an old person, so I don't always get everything right,
Well,
but I continued to run the support group.
well,
Just
right now the junior high is bullying. There's a lot of kids 11 and 12 years old that are on social media and they're bullied at school or they do pictures or whatever.
Right.
And there's 11 and 12-year-olds that commit suicide. And
shame.
there's also right now girls from the age of 16 to 30 because of maybe not getting the education that they need, being able to go to college, or depending on their boyfriends or whatever. It's high right now amongst girls, and also the fair that's coming up in the seniors that we're going to. Suicide is very prominent amongst our seniors. because of isolation and getting older. Their friends are dying, maybe a spouse has died. So it's very high with a lot of our older seniors, which I was kind of surprised about, along with our young girls.
It doesn't seem like there's an age group that's left out, really.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah, it's
It's
something.
a struggling world right now, and the support systems with families aren't as strong as they used to be. And so COVID has isolated a lot of our teenagers, and they didn't get to be with their young people in high school. My granddaughter said, I was isolated, Grandma, for almost 2 years, and it's kind of hard to get back into the groove again. We didn't get to see one another because she graduated, and she said we didn't get to have that bonding experience with other high school people and
Right.
their peers.
Yeah.
So it's been a hard time for a lot of our young people.
And I think, too, I would just like to say that I think neighboring is not as prevalent as it used to be, where you knew every neighbor and you knew all of their business, and you could, you would go help at the drop of a hat. And I don't think we see a lot of that. And that's so you do have a lot of seniors who are isolating. But if you know people in your, just even in your block where you live, who might be alone, check on them every day. I mean, take 5 minutes to take a bag of cookies over or something, or don't even have to take anything. Just go knock on the door and ask, are you all right? Is there anything you need? Can I do something for you? I'm very fortunate where I live that we all kind of take care of each other and help each other out. But I know a lot of the parts of town are not like that.
Yeah.
Very important, though.
Well, I'm going to share your contact information if I can do that.
Okay.
And so there is the suicide hotline, which is 800 273 8255. You can also reach NAMI Klamath at 541 885 4909. And they also have their Southern Oregon advocate, which is Victoria Sage at 541 414 3386.
Oh, may I say something?
Absolutely.
I do believe, maybe you might have it. There is Alyssa.
Oh, that's this.
What is her name?
Can-
Yeah.
Can
do
I
that one,
say
yeah.
something about this?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so they have a program coming up, and this is parents and teens. If you have a teenager, this is free. There's not a good reason not to listen in on this, but it's called Ending the Silence. It's the end of May, the May 30th. For teens, it's from 4:30 to 5:30. Wait a minute, is that right? So it's for teens. They have their own segment. Then parents have their own segment. You have to go online to register, but it talks about mental health facts and statistics, the stigma, and why language matters, mental health warning signs, what you can do if you're struggling, how to help a friend, warning signs of suicide, treatment and options, coping strategies, how to get involved with advocacy, and a personal mental health recovery story shared by a teenager. And so that is coming up the end of May, May 30th, and teens have, I think theirs is from 4 to 5:30, and then the adults is from 5:30 to 7, something like that.
And that's online.
That's
That-
online, so you can do it in your pajamas.
So we'll put this QR code link somewhere here to get you guys onto that.
So if I could make a copy of that before
I'm
you.
leaving this with you. You can have it.
Okay. And so if you watch the podcast to the end, I will have that posted on the on our closing shot, and I'll leave it up there for a few minutes. So if you're watching the program, watch to the end, and that information will be posted at the end.
Good program. Free.
And at that, I think we might be done. Ladies, I can't thank you enough for coming on, being our guest,
You so much.
and especially for giving us such a worthy topic that really needs to be addressed. So if you see Becky or Vicky out there, thank them when you see them. They do very important work, and very much appreciated to have you here.
Thank you.
All right.
See you guys later.